Hello, everyone. Hopefully, we'll have a few people here in just a moment. I'm Dr. Kathy Marshak, and I am going to be talking today about neurodivergent relationships. So, let me just do a couple of pre-setup things. I want to make sure that I have comments set up. There we go. You can see that. And I'll repeat this as soon as people get here, but the topic today is take back the power in your neurodivergent relationship. So what that means, take back the power in your neurodivergent relationship, it means a lot of things. What I've written in my description here is there's a big difference between a relationship where two people have differences as they work as a team toward shared goals, and in a relationship where the couple fights to win and be right. I'm sure you all know what that's about. So we're going to talk about these, not that anybody's wrong. It's not that neurodivergent means that anybody's wrong, but it does mean you have a different mindset, and it causes problems for couples that have this type of style. For example, I'll start off right from the beginning. I'll remind you, in my world of working with neurodivergent relationships, we have people who are neurodiverse. That would be, for example, people with autism, but it could include other people that have other types of diverse methods of processing information. And then we have neurotypicals. Neurotypicals are the dominant way of brain organization. And so when we have neurotypicals and neurodiverse people in a relationship, what happens is that frequently we have what is called neurodivergent communication. They're just not coming together. And hi, Marina from Copenhagen. It's good to see you. Let me know if you're in the room. It's kind of fun to know who's here listening. You can just post a notice if you want to. You don't have to. And like I said, I was going to kind of start over again as more people got here. So as people are filling up the room, I'm going to remind you that the topic is how to take back the power in your neurodivergent relationship. So the differences in the way that people on the spectrum think from neurotypicals is kind of the way I talk about it, but I can also talk about how neurotypicals think differently. And the big issue that people have to deal with is that people on the spectrum tend to be, or neurodiverse people, are transactional in their thinking. They're looking for an answer. They're looking for what is right and wrong, what is good or bad, what makes sense to them. Hi, Gainer and April. Oh, got somebody from Florida. This is great. Whereas what neurotypicals do is they take quite a bit of time to affirm and honor the person they're with, regardless of what's being talked about. It's always about acknowledging that human being, affirming them, giving them credit for having a brain too, even if they haven't expressed their opinion yet. It's not transactional. Neurotypicals can certainly be transactional, but if life is only transactional, we have neurodivergence. It just doesn't work for neurotypicals. Okay, so if you're going to take back your power in these relationships, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? And welcome to people that I haven't mentioned yet, but thank you for coming. In this Facebook Live, what I'm talking about is the video conferences and the teleconferences that I'll be presenting next month, the month of April. And I hope you join us. You just need to join our Meetup group to participate in these events because they're private, and I keep them private so that members of our group can feel safe talking about these things that are very personal and stressful for you. In fact, I get emails all the time from people asking me the if our meetup events are private. If we're really able to talk openly and not be recorded. And it's true, I don't record the video conferences at all. These are small groups where you can talk with me and with other members of our group about the kind of life that you live with. It's open only to neurotypicals, not for the neurodiverse population, even though I know that they would like to be in there and talking and learning too. But this is so that you can feel free to talk about those confusing moments that you have. Hello, Holly. Tucson. Tucson's a great place. And she says she's having trouble hearing because there's a rainstorm. Oh my gosh, it is that time of year. So I love all these comments. Please keep posting your comments and your questions, and I will get to those in a minute after I go through this little formal presentation, but I want to answer your questions about this topic. How do we take back that power in our neurodivergent relationship? The reason we need to take it back is that if you're always talking transactionally or always talking interactionally, both parties gets left behind. Okay, the transactional person keeps trying to pin you down, pin the neurotypical person down, tries to pin you down to, what are you talking about? What's the answer? What do you want from me? How many of your neurodiverse loved ones just say things like, just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Or they say, well, you're not making any sense, and they turn around and walk away. So, hi, Diane. And on the reverse, or the other side of things, neurodiverse people wonder why neurotypicals are just taking so long to chat, to say hi to everybody. Like I can't see you, but I can see your names pop up, like Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Why do we do that? Why are we, can we just move along? Can we just move along here instead of just chatting? But we can't. Neurotypicals need to chat. We need to, even if you're an introvert, we need to make connection with others first. Be transactional second. Transactional people seem to bypass that stuff and it leaves us cold. So in taking back your power, it's not that you have to be neurotypical if you're neurodiverse, or it's not that you somehow have to hold back who you are as a neurotypical and just talk transactional language for neurodiverse people. That's not true. Why would that work? Then you can't be yourself. But it does mean we have to be respectful. We have to be respectful of the other person's style and take our time. So let me tell you what the conferences are about, and then I'll come back and answer some of the questions that are popping up. I usually offer the conferences. Remember, you have to be a part of the meetup, and I've given you the link for how to join the meetup group. It's in the intro, on the intro page here, for how to join our group. And there's all kinds of things you get to do in the group, by the way, besides these video conferences. But the video conferences are special. That's where we get together, like I said, with a small group. There's like 7 or 8 people talking to each other privately, confidentially, not recorded, so that you can really get in deep. And some people say it's the best therapy they've gotten so far on this subject. So, hi, Maria Blanca. Hi there. She's from Alabama. Oh, and Kate from Brisbane. Oh, Kate, I haven't seen you in a long time. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let me tell you what the events are. Then we'll go back and talk about these kind of power struggles. In fact, the first video conference is No More Power Struggles for Neurodivergent Couples. And that'll be on Monday, April 4th, and Tuesday, April 5th. I always list it as Pacific time, but Meetup does a good job of translating that into whatever day and time you're in. So if you're in Brisbane, it probably wouldn't be Monday. It might be Tuesday. But it'll pop up on the right time frame for you. Oh, and there's Lynn from Illinois. Hi, Lynn. Okay, so no more power struggles for neurodivergent couples. The reason we have power struggles is because we're trying to get the other person to communicate the way we do. Right? Neurotypical for their neurodiverse loved one to chat back. They might have a little pattern that they have memorized to use with you, but it doesn't feel great because it's energy exchange. And for neurodiverse people, um, they keep asking you questions. The neurodiverse person asks questions of the neurotypical, and we don't answer it because we're waiting to connect first before we answer questions, if that makes sense to you. So I was watching, I don't know if you know about this, I was watching a couple of YouTubes of Hannah Gadsby, who's an Australian comedian. Maybe Kate knows about her. If you haven't, you should watch her. She's very funny. She's on the autism spectrum. She unabashedly admits that she's autistic. And she doesn't make fun of autism, but she makes fun of herself. It's different because she says autism can be something that's quite painful for people, and she wants them to get the help they need, but she certainly doesn't want to make fun of anybody. But one of the jokes on this one talk show that I was watching was she was talking about how the interviewer was asking her, how can this be a social thing? She said having autism is a social problem. And the interviewer said, well, how can this be a social problem? Because you're a comedian, you're there, you talk to people. Kate says it's 6:12 a.m. Wednesday morning, Brisbane time. Yeah, I know it's I'm happy you got up to join us today. At any rate, so the interviewer asks her, he says, well, it doesn't make any sense. You're a stand-up comedian and you're on this show, you're talking with me. You're talking in front of all these people. And she said, oh, that's because I watched you ahead of time. I learned what you do on your show. So she was prepared ahead of time. It wasn't a casual conversation. She prepared herself by watching his videos. And she said, I knew what was going to happen when I came on the show. And he asked her, well, what did you think was going to happen? And she said, you're going to ask me questions and I will answer them. That's all I have to do, is answer your questions. That's not a conversation, is it? Oh, the comedian is Hannah Gadsby. Beatrice was asking me. Hi, Beatrice. Sorry. The reason Nicole is saying she can't hear me. I've got the volume on as high as it can go, but I can move my computer closer to me, and I had papers on top of the microphone. I'm sorry. Let me see what my volume is. Yeah, I got the volume up as loud as I can go, so I'll try to talk louder. So at any rate, Hannah Gadsby is the comedian, and in this particular YouTube, she explained that I knew what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to answer your questions, and because she's a comedian, she gave a funny little twist to her answers. Okay, then this guy said, "Oh, so does that mean that if I were to ask you to go out for a drink after the show, that might make you nervous because that would be more of a social thing?" And she goes, "Oh no, I wouldn't be anxious. I would just tell you no." Right? She said, I would just tell you no. She doesn't wait to be anxious. She would not go out for a drink because she wouldn't be up to the expectation of having a conversation. So this is somebody who gets it. Okay, she's autistic. She understands a lot about her own behavior and human behavior in general. And diagnosis has been helpful to me because I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I can choose to do what I'm good at, and I wouldn't go out for a drink. That doesn't mean that other autistic people won't go out for a drink. That's just how she, processes her life. Okay, so no more power struggles. That's one thing. The next video conference is, the title is Alone or Lonely in a Neurodivergent Relationship. Alone or lonely. And again, this is offered on 2 different days, Monday, April 18th, and Tuesday, April 19th, Pacific time. And the times and the dates are on the Meetup calendar, and I think they're also listed on the Facebook, my Facebook page. So you can always find the dates there. But remember, you have to be a member to participate. And it's pretty easy to join Meetup. All you do is join Meetup, and then you join my group, and you've got 30 days to explore the group, to see if it works for you. So the second conference of the month is Alone or Lonely in a Neurodivergent Relationship. So what's that about? Is it's really important to understand that, especially for neurotypicals, we feel very lonesome when we don't get the chit chat back. We're waiting for the person to notice us. We're trying to notice them. We're trying to connect with that other person energetically. And when you don't chit chat back, it feels as if it's done. The transaction is complete. And in a way, the neurodiverse person is doing that. They're waiting for you to make sense to them. And if you do make sense, then things are done. Sometimes they just get up and walk out of the room because they don't know what you're telling them. So a neurodivergent relationship, this is where I hate to disillusion you, but I debunk the love languages stuff. When people say, oh, acts of service are my love language, or words of affirmation are my love language, it's like, no, words of affirmation are all that neurotypicals need. We need those words of affirmation first, actions later. The problem for neurodiverse people is they don't offer words of affirmation, but they often will take some actions on your behalf. There are different realities, and so it doesn't work. I don't think it works at all. I think we need to understand the transactional, interactional component. So, I think both neurodiverse and neurotypicals can feel lonesome in a neurodivergent relationship because we're both dancing as fast as we can, and we're not connecting with the other person. We need to understand the dynamic. Oh, Kate says Hannah is also a member of the LGBTQ community, so she would not be interested in having a date with a male. That's not true. She might enjoy going out and actually chatting with somebody who knows something about her, but that's not why she said no. She didn't say no, I won't have a drink because, because I'm gay. I wouldn't do that. She just said no, I wouldn't go out with anybody. I prefer going home and living with my dog, staying with my dog, whose expectations are much lower. So, okay, I'll get back to that in a minute because I think the loneliness and alone thing is really difficult. Many people in neurodivergent relationships think it feels like parallel play. I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, and we don't talk, we don't connect, we're not there for each other. Thank you, Sharon. Oh, she says B stands for bisexual. Yeah, so we're getting off track, but that's okay. The third video conference of the month is called From Denial to Resilience, and that's on Monday and Tuesday, April 25th and 26th. So I don't think anybody is in denial about, denial is not choosing to ignore something that's important. Denial is a psychological term. It means that you're unaware of it, period. So if you're in denial about the neurodivergence, if you're in denial about neurodiversity, or if we stay on the gender and sexuality theme, if you're in denial of your bisexuality, that means you don't even know that that's true. All right, so as we slowly begin to, this is a really important conference to me. It's about waking up and seeing where we're biased and we didn't know it, or where there's something about us that has been a puzzle for a really long time. Like I misspoke earlier today. This one man who's on the spectrum said, I've always, ever since I was a child, knew that I was different than other people. I knew I could do a lot of math problems in my head. He happens to be a math wizard, but I wasn't really good with relationships. He says, I've always known that. And a little bit later, I was talking about him, and I said, tell me more about what made you feel like there was something wrong with you when you were a child, right? I used the word wrong instead of different. I used the word wrong. I've got my papers in front of my microphone again. Sorry. I'll keep trying to not do that. So those are the subtle missteps that we make that make it really difficult for people. So, you know, that's a little bit of my own denial slipping in there, having grown up with an autistic mother, married an autistic man, and adopted an autistic kid, right? So I think I have a bias that was hurtful for me, stressful for me, and so sometimes I slip into that's wrong. So that's denial. Resilience is when you get it that nobody's right or wrong, nobody's bad or good, people are unique individuals. You don't have to feel bad about making a mistake like saying wrong. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I meant different. And he said, yeah, that's right. I said I was different. So that helped us move along, right? I don't have to apologize for being a human being who made a mistake. But if we don't do that, then we don't rise above the distress of these relationships. And it makes it harder. Oh, I wonder if it would work if I used my AirPods. Maybe that would help with the sound. Let me see if that works. If it doesn't, I'll go back to just the speaker on the mic on my laptop. Let me see. Now tell me if you can hear me, if this is better. Anybody? Oh, it's better. Okay, good. I meant to do that from the beginning. I'm so sorry. I know that for some reason Facebook, I have more problems with Facebook than anything else. If these drop out, let me know and I'll go back to the bad microphone. So, from denial to resilience. Resilience is the first step or the last step before what I call radiant empathy. If you're resilient, if you can keep yourself steady, if you can trust that you are a good person and mean well, and that the other person is a good person and means well too, then we can get past any disagreement, which brings us back to the power struggle. You don't have to have a power struggle as long as you keep being true to yourself and being respectful of the other person. It might take you longer to get out of the power struggle because we have neurodivergence in these relationships, but you don't have to be hard on yourself. Okay, then on April 20th is a teleconference, and it is the teleconference is recorded. I've recorded teleconference or podcasts since I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years, and we have them all saved on our private membership site. And so what that is, what that helps with is, now somebody's telling me the volume's low again. I am just going to have to leave it that way for right now. At any rate, the teleconferences, for our regular members, you do have to be a paid member of the Meetup group to listen to the old recordings. Oops, am I still there? I hope. The old recordings are, go back and you can download them if you're a regular member. If you're a new member in the first 30 days, there's no fee. After that, it's an annual fee of $25, and that's it. Anyway, the teleconference is how to get past the black and white thinking of Aspies, or the transactional thinking. So remember, our group is geared for neurotypicals. Facebook Live is public. We have people listening today who are on the spectrum, who are neurodiverse as well as neurotypicals. So that's open to anybody. But in our group, it's just neurotypicals. And I'll be talking on that teleconference about how to respect their transactional nature but not get stuck in it. So one of the things is that you need to know that the transactional approach is very effective at shutting people down, getting things decided, moving on. It's an executive skill. It's just not a very fun experience when you just want to connect with your loved ones. We don't want transactional connecting. We just want to share a moment with somebody. Then Julie just popped up. Hi, Julie. She keeps telling me the volume's fine for her, so maybe it's great in New Zealand and nowhere else. I don't know. Anyway, I'd like you all to meet Julie. She's on the list there. Julie is our ambassador. So she hosts a monthly video call for new members to learn more about our membership group. It can be a little overwhelming to join a group of over 600 people. You don't get to meet them all at once, but it can be a little overwhelming to know where to start. And so Julie is wonderful. She's been with the group for many, many years. She's really wonderful at helping you sort of guide you to, maybe you should listen to that teleconference, or maybe just even talking in the group of new people, you get past some of your nervousness about joining our group. And there's lots of other questions that she can answer for you or steer you in the right direction as to how to use the group. We have message boards, teleconferences, video conferences. You can also actually interact with each other privately. So there's lots of ways to get past your nervousness. But let's talk about that for a minute too, because if you're going to basically take back the power in your neurodivergent relationship, we've got to get past our fears. You've got to get past that you're doing something wrong or you're being disloyal. A lot of people worry about being disloyal to their, neurodiverse loved ones, just because you're saying there's a problem for me. But then if you don't bring up the problem, are you in denial? Are you acting like everything's okay when it's not? And if something isn't okay, it doesn't mean that anybody's bad. It just means something's not working. And we need to get to the bottom of what's not working so that we have a chance to build what one of my autistic clients years ago said, we need to build an interface protocol, right? So if you're going to get to radiant empathy, where you're there for others and you're there for yourself, we have to rise above our fears, which is resilience. Okay? Resilience doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means you've been through a lot and you're not going to let it hold you back. Right? And you need to trust that other people, by the time we're adults, have been through a lot too, and we're not going to hold anybody back, and we're especially not going to hold ourselves back. You know, people are telling me the volume is fine in Florida and Brazil and New Zealand and Miami and whatever, and that's cute. Who knows? Maybe I'm coming and going in the volume. So let me go back and see some of the questions. And this is your chance to post a question. I'll be on this live for a little bit longer, and I can answer questions for you about our group or just about your life. And one more thing about that fear stuff. If you don't join the group, you can't get past it. I hate to say that, but I don't hate to say it, because what we find is that there's power in being understood, and this is a group who will understand you. This is a group who has been where you are. Julie's been there. I've been there. Like I said, I've never lived without somebody who's autistic in my life. I was born into that family. So I think that you get better and you'll get past your fears when you join the group, you attend events, you hear other people speaking your words. It's a big deal. So Courtney Powell says, I'm curious about watching old videos. If we're in the trial portion of the Meetup group, can we still see those? I didn't realize that was a benefit. There's not old videos. Julie answered the question. The videos are not recorded, but the teleconferences are, and available to listen to for paid members of the group. So in the trial portion, you can attend the teleconference that's on, if your 30 days is during this one, April 20th, how to get past the black and white thinking. You're welcome to attend that teleconference, but that recording will be posted on the private site for members only. The videos are not recorded because you see people's faces, and I don't want to give people's, identity away. But that's the reason I want you to go to Julie's newbie group, because you can ask those kind of questions there and start getting used to how to use our group. Okay, let's see here. We're scrolling back up through these comments. And I think I answered some of these things already. So, another thing you can do is send me a comment here on Facebook too. If I don't get to something you wanted me to talk about today, you certainly can send me a question. And let's see here. Am I getting down to everybody? Oops. So Callie, she's got a good question here. Callie is from my neck of the woods. She said, is there a way of kindly pointing out that they take a point of information, take a very strong stand on that? If I disagree, of course, I am trying to pick a fight versus sharing a broader perception. Whoops, where'd she go? Or even, now the questions are popping in and popping me off the screen. Trying to pick a fight versus sharing a broader perception, or even some different research. She's asking, is there a way to kindly point out? But first of all, I want to explain what's going on with people, with our neurodiverse people. Remember, they do not automatically assume that we're having a conversation, that it's a back and forth reciprocal chat. They think, many people on the spectrum believe that a conversation is a debate. They are also context blind, so they're not always looking at which pieces of the information we're sharing with them to respond to that will connect back with us. See, we look and say, what can I notice and connect with you? Instead, they that they can debate if they like debating, or if they don't like debating, they can clam up and say nothing. So that's still that black and white. Sometimes what we can do to keep them from pushing too hard for a transaction is to say, if you don't mind, let me just chat for a minute. It helps me to clear my thinking, because it's, at least then they know that you're not going to say anything that is too confusing. The second thing is you can say, and as soon as I know where I'm headed, I will tell you. They do better if you give them a punchline, a headline, a rule to follow. So like what Hannah Gadsby said is, I watched the interviewer on the television program, and I saw what he did with people on his show. He asked them questions. It wasn't a conversation. He just kept asking questions and getting them to talk about what they wanted to talk about, or what they wanted to talk about themselves. He didn't expect much of a conversation at all. So if we can do that, if we can say, here's what I'm talking about, please give me a moment to talk about it, at least they know what the structure is. You can also say things, I've said this before too, I've said things like, you're not allowed to disagree with me, this is my opinion. Sometimes a lot of times I'll ask you a lot of questions that aren't relevant to what you're talking about, and I will say that. I'll say you're asking the wrong question. I'll let you ask questions in a moment when I'm ready for that. So you take charge of it. They're not offended. Believe it or not, they understand that you're in charge. They just let you do that until they want to say something. Courtney says, can you post a link to your newbie group? It's on the calendar. I should have explained that. All you have to do is go to our Meetup calendar on Meetup and scroll through the events, and you'll see Julie's link to that. If you're a member, if you've joined, then all you have to do is click that link. It'll take you to how to register for her event. And in fact, did we put the link up there, Julie? I think I did. If not, just go to the Meetup page and you'll find it. Yeah, Kate says the video groups have certainly helped me feel less isolated. I feel human again. It just helps to know that when you go to a group and you're sitting there quietly for the first time and you're not sure if you should speak up, and 3 other people voice your concerns, it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm not. And one person wrote a sweet little message. She said, my first video conference, it felt like a big hug. I finally was home. I felt like I had a hug. So April says, hubby is diagnosed level 1. Our 10-year-old son is as well. I'm awaiting a neuropsychological evaluation myself. I strongly suspect that I have ADHD. If indeed I do, would that disqualify me from joining the group? I've seen resources for NT, ND, marriage. Let's see if there's more here, which are often helpful, but not ND, ND. You would not be disqualified. I allow people in our group who have ADHD because ADHD is different. You also may not have ADHD. You may have PTSD. We have a number of members with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. The difference is with ADHD and PTSD, for example, is your anxiety can get to a level where you're very transactional, or you don't want to have a conversation, or you don't hear things correctly coming from the other person. But if you're relaxed and can kind of give yourself permission, you actually do have very good empathy skills. So, and if you don't think your empathy is going to be improved by a relaxation, then you probably wouldn't feel good in the group because you want to be understood and you want the other people to be understood. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, when I say neurotypical, I do not mean without any flaw or issue that you're working through. So many of our group members have chronic illness, which is going to affect your empathy. It's going to wear you down. You're going to be tired. So some days you don't just feel like listening to anybody. So Debbie says, is there a way to try and figure out how far on the Asperger's scale they are? Is there such a thing as light Asperger's? So I love this question because I don't think it matters. This is not about, I mean, yes, the American Psychiatric Association has the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual and has tried to quantify a diagnosis for autism spectrum in different levels. But in our group with basically high-functioning autism, the primary problem is empathy. The primary problem is that people who are neurodiverse will use transactional approaches to solve the problem. That feels unempathic to neurotypicals. So, yes, I have some autistic clients who are more generous style than others, but basically it doesn't matter how far they are on the scale if they're also deemed at a high level. It doesn't really matter. They may also have sensory sensitivities. They may have other traits associated, OCD, things that are associated with autism spectrum disorder. But the primary problem for us, we can handle all that. We can handle that he doesn't like flickering lights or only wants oatmeal for breakfast every morning. We can handle that. What we struggle with is that lack of connecting back. That's what we need help with. Oh, Sophia says, what happened to the lunchtime-ish teleconferences? There aren't so many of those anymore. I think she means video conferences and teleconferences. But I used to have video conferences. These topics, I would host them 3 times instead of just 2 times each month. And the reason that I backed off on the lunchtime-ish ones is that we didn't have as many people signing up for that. It didn't seem to be as popular, so I wanted to make sure you had a group of people to talk with. So I've cut them back. But if you're interested in a topic and you've missed a couple that I've done, now we're offering them like at first of the day and at the end of the day to try to get as many time zones as possible. But if there's a topic you really want to hear and it's already been sold out, or it's at a time that's inconvenient, just let us know. We might be able to still slip another one in if there's enough people showing an interest. You just have to text on Facebook or email Daniela, and she can help, organize that. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, Julie, how sweet. Julie says it's a massively scary thing to join a video conference and then a huge relief to know you're not alone. Yeah, being brave enough to, fight for your sanity and your family. That's what this group has to be. We have to be brave enough to do this. We have had a lot of ego battering in neurodivergent relationships. Other people don't get what you live with. You and your partner don't always get what you live with, right? So it makes us nervous that if I bring something up, I'm not doing the right thing. But I think when you join after the first one, you just go, oh my gosh, just like Julie said, it's just such a relief to know that you're not alone. Susan says, my AS husband is very aggressive, presumably because of high anxiety. However, how do I take charge, like you suggest, when I'm actually quite scared of him? He ignores me when I say he cannot shout at me. Well, this is a good one. Hi, Susan. Susan is a long way from me. It would take me days to get to where she lives in South Africa. So I'm so happy you're joining us. What day is it there? I don't know. What day is it? What time is it? You're like Julie. Here's the problem. Taking charge does not mean telling the other person what to do, because that's confusing. If you say, you can't shout at me, which is perfectly reasonable, and you should never put up with abuse. So, it's reasonable to do that. The problem is that it just feels to people on the spectrum as if you're complaining, number one. They may not even know they're shouting, or they may feel that that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying you should not say no. You should have a boundary about verbal abuse. But if you can stay neutral and say, oh, you've begun shouting, I'm sorry, I'm going to go visit my friends now. You cut it off. You say, I'm not going to do this. You don't say, you can't shout at me. Now that's for a conversation later, yes. But in the moment that it happens, immediately stop. Sometimes I'll say, this isn't going to work for me. I need to leave now. Right? So then you're at least giving the message that that's not okay. Then at a calmer moment, you talk about it. Let's say they admit they were yelling or shouting at you. Let's say they admit it. Great. You got something to work with, don't you? What if they say, well, I wasn't shouting, or you're the one that shouts. You always shout, which sometimes we do, right? People do that. You can say, that's not the point. The point is that I want to make sure we have a rule to follow, that we're both respectful, and here's the rule. It's not, don't shout at me. The rule is that I will leave the encounter, or you can leave if you believe you're being shouted at. That's different than telling the other person to stop it. It's more effective. Think about parenting when your kids are out of control. Didn't you, when they got a little bit older anyway, didn't you say, I think it's time for you to go to your room? Yeah, I'd like you to go to your room now. We'll talk later. Nope, my mom's not going to talk about it anymore. So what you do is it's called a pattern interrupt. If you yell back, if you argue with the person, you're engaging in the transaction. If we say, no, I'm not doing that, you're interrupting the transactional pattern. And that's what we're trying to do. In transactional patterns are very destructive when they're arguments. So Nicole, she says, my husband and I have agreed to tell people and talk about his diagnosis because no one seems to know about Asperger's. Funny enough, people feel very uncomfortable when I speak about it, and they think I'm putting him down. Funny, because we are only truly trying to educate people, as I can't be the only woman in Ontario dealing with this. You are not the only woman in Ontario dealing with this. It's not that it's scary for people, it's that they don't get it. So it's in our nature, as it is in our neurodivergent relationships, to pull back. So good for you that you and your husband are willing to talk about it. That's why Hannah Gatsby is funny. She's willing to talk about something that everybody else would think, oh no, we shouldn't talk about autism. Oh, heaven forbid. Right? Or we shouldn't laugh about it. It's serious, serious business. So what you need to do is find a way to help your friends by saying, you know, we're comfortable with this. I'm sorry it's unpleasant for you, but I would rather be upfront about it. So slowly trying to move people around to thinking that it's okay to talk about things that are difficult, as opposed to, since I don't understand this, I'm going to pull away. Since I don't get it, I don't want to deal with it. That's not very resilient. So Kate says, especially if you've had dogmatic and disrespectful people who deliberately betray your confidences. Yes, it takes a lot of courage to speak up, to stand up, speak out, and talk back. When, in my case, my mother would scream at me. She would rip me up one side and down the other when she was absolutely determined that I had done something deliberately to cause harm to her. I grew up with a very undiagnosed autistic parent who lost her temper frequently because she was just so stressed. And I was a good kid. It wasn't like I was a bad kid that caused her a lot of trouble. Let's see here. And then Jen, well, okay, so another piece of this is that get therapy for your fears. You know, I'm not expecting you to stand up and be superhuman if you still are just so tense and sensitive. I still have PTSD. I have to work that through periodically from all the years of being misunderstood and treated badly. So therapy helps. There's lots of approaches that help you with this. Just got a couple more minutes here. Jen says, do you think our AS partners find it as frustrating and difficult to be in a relationship with an NT partner? This is really a good question because sometimes our ASD, our neurodiverse loved ones, can't talk about it. They don't know. They might have alexithymia, or the inability to know what they're feeling, or to come up with words to express what they're feeling, right? So as human beings, everybody probably is quite capable of being frustrated in these relationships, but don't kid yourself because your autistic loved one doesn't talk about it that they aren't distressed. But sometimes in a moment, as a therapist, sometimes in a moment with my neurodiverse clients, I will try to find out where they are on a level from 1 to 5. I might say, well, you don't look terribly frustrated right now. Well, I was just talking to a man about this morning. I said, I don't know that your wife knows you're having feelings. And he goes, well, I'm having feelings. And well, he didn't even shake his head like that. He said, I'm having feelings. And it was just a blank. And I said, well, what kind of feelings are you having? And he said, frustration. And I said, oh, what's frustrating you? And he goes, just frustration. So he couldn't even talk about it, but he was aware of it, which is cool. And we were both surprised that he was feeling frustrated because he didn't look frustrated at all. So I think, yes, they are just as frustrated. They don't know what to do, and they do exactly what neurotypicals do. They come up with a reason it is the way it is, which may not be true. And I think also it's important to understand that all human beings want love and want to be connected and want their families to work. And when it doesn't, we are very sad. We can get quite depressed. Everybody. So Kelly, she says, you said there may be high-functioning autism people listening, and I'm curious what they hear when they hear you speak. Mine was shocked when I tried to say that he was very kind but not empathic. Sometimes I don't know who the comments are from. But I do hear later a lot of times from some of my clients who are on the spectrum, and they will watch the Facebook Live and sometimes make a comment like refer me to a book or a video. In fact, I found out about Hannah Gadsby from people on the spectrum. So um, they want to know. I have people on the spectrum who want to join my group. They want to be part of my meetup group because they want to learn from all of you how to be a better person. They want to know what neurotypicals want so they can do it. So I think just like the woman from Ontario said, my husband and I want everybody to know about this. We don't want to keep this a secret. And I don't either. I'm willing to talk about it, even if it's annoying or hurtful. I don't want to be hurtful, but sometimes it feels hurtful because, you know, something comes out that you didn't realize was being revealed. Oh, here's another Ontario person, or is it the same person? It says, I too am dealing with the same thing in Ontario. People would not hesitate to be supportive if you talked about your husband's cancer, for example. But when it comes to discussing anything between the ears, people clam up and isolate you. Yeah, you know, I was just going through and looking for movie clips, how Hollywood has viewed autism. And it's been interesting looking into that. You know, the earliest film that I'm aware of is a 1988 Dustin Hoffman film, Rain Man. So he's an extreme example of autism. There's the Temple Grandin story, another extreme example of autism. And so to try to find something that shows our high-functioning, brilliant, autistic, neurodivergent relationships isn't so easy. So the best option, I think, is Hannah Gadsby. I think she does a great job of helping us see the dynamic. Now, she's not talking necessarily with another person, but she is very open to talking about her autism. Another great film that I like is The Social Network with Jesse Eisenberg playing Mark Zuckerberg. The opening scene, the first 10 minutes, boom, there's him sitting there with the girlfriend having a conversation. At least she thinks it's a conversation. He's telling her everything that he knows. It's very enlightening to watch that film and see the autism interfere and also assist him in developing Facebook. We'll see if my video is still here next week. Okay, are we done with questions? So I guess I really do want to re-emphasize that if you're afraid, you won't get anywhere. You've got to be willing, we've got to be willing to talk about what we're observing, because you're not observing, you're not making this up. I wasn't making it up. When I wrote my first book, I was nervous about it. I was afraid. I was afraid to put it out there. And my editor shared the book, the manuscript, with the editorial team, half of whom, I'll get my language right, half of whom did not want to publish my book because they were afraid that it would upset people. My little book. And they did publish it, and they did build an audience for this subject, but they were afraid that people wouldn't like to hear what I was saying. So, let's see here. Sharon, are you aware of The Good Doctor? Right, and actually, even Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon. Yes, exactly. There's examples of autism, not so much neurotypical, neurodiverse interaction showing the distress. I like the Netflix series Atypical as well. I think it does a good job of showing it. Okay, we got a couple of people who are in Ontario, Canada. That's cool. So stay in touch. Find other people in your locale. And I forgot to mention this. We have local groups that you can join in your time zone. We have a group in UK, be in France or Germany and join because it's video. We have a group on the East Coast of the United States, everybody who's in that time zone, anybody can go to any of these groups if you want to get up at 6 in the morning, like like who was that? I forget. Oh, right, Kate. So there's the UK group, there's the East Coast US group, there's the Julie has another group in New Zealand just for anybody who wants to. You don't have to be newbies. Okay. People are still posting, which is lovely. You can keep talking to each other. I don't think I need to do this. I think we're on purpose. Oh, that is a good question. Dang it. Let me answer this one more question. Courtney says, can you explain why they can think we are hurting them on purpose, like you mentioned about your mom? That's a transactional mistake. If you think about it, if you've said something that hurt me, you intended to hurt me. That's the transactional mistake they're making. And if they say something that hurts us but they didn't intend to, their transactional mistake is, since I didn't intend to, you shouldn't be hurt. And I hope neurodiverse people are listening to this as well. Intention does matter, but so do the words you use. You need both. You need to understand the intention so that you can get past a misunderstanding. So I had a neurodiverse husband say to me, what's the difference between when my wife is criticizing me and when I just think it's a criticism? So he was aware that in his neurodiversity, he perceives criticisms that are not intended and aren't there. He said, how do I tell the difference? And I said, easy. Always assume that your loved one is never criticizing you. Why don't you start from that frame? That's a good person, that you love him or her, and that you really are trying to engage. And we're just going to act like there was no criticism. Right? So that's the way you stop the yelling as well. You go, that's not working for me, so I'm going to leave right now, but we can talk later. It's still respectful. And we're acting as if they didn't mean to cause that harm, but we're giving them a chance to regroup and do the right thing. Okay, everybody, I'm going to end the live today. Remember, you can keep posting here after I'm gone. I will go through and scroll and see if there's something that you want me to answer, but you're getting information from each other. Also, scroll to the top here and click on the Meetup link and join our Meetup group so that you can participate all you want with the members of our group. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.